Welcome to Headline Hunting. I'm your host, Joe Fora, and joining me all the way from Tokyo, Japan, covering the Ultimate Fighting Championship with a huge conglomerate from MMA Junkie is Mike Bond. Mike, first things first, the announcement from Fedor. Were you one of the guys like myself who didn't believe it was going to happen with the UFC, but then you bit the bait, and now you hear the news that he's not going to the Ultimate Fighting Championship?
Yeah, I think everyone was holding out hope on Fedor coming to the UFC, just since it's been, a wish of MMA fans and media to see him in the UFC fighting the best guys in the world for so long. And it seemed like this time there was finally, all the hurdles were cleared, and it seemed like there was a clear path for him to finally come over and make this happen. But once again, we got duped, and he ends up signs to fight a deal with Saki Kabara, his former boss over in Pride, fight in Japan on New Year's Eve. And I think, I don't know who he's going to fight, but it's just one of those situations. Once again, we got tricked, and I don't know, how close he ever was to going to the UFC, if there was actual negotiations, if there was a contract offer, any of those things. Hopefully, Dana White or someone from the UFC will let us know in the future. But as of right now, you can never be for sure when it comes to Fedor, but I was definitely more hopeful than I've ever been. But once again, didn't work out.
Absolutely. Now, we know he's going to be fighting in Japan, and the bottom line is, look, Mike, we are going to tune in. It is Fedor, but like you mentioned, who could he possibly fight? I mean, all the best are in the UFC. What are his options?
It totally depends on the circumstance. Right now, it seems like there's going to be some sort of co-promotion, or at least it's airing on Spike TV on New Year's Eve. Sounds like it's going to be a tape delay, so I don't really know. Bellator's came out when the press release was, sent out to the media about this fight. It said that there's going to be Bellator fighters on that card. So I don't know if Bellator is going to be willing to lend out one of their heavyweights. Could be, a Bobby Lashley, a Kimbo, maybe even a Randy Couture or something like that. But personally, I don't feel like Bellator is going to be willing to give up one of those big names to, put it in Japan on New Year's on a tape-delayed card. I don't really see how that helps them out when they're a company that's, run on doing live events, trying to get big ratings. I don't see how that benefits their company really at all to give a Kimbo or something like that. So I don't really know who they're going to find to fight Fedor at this point. It could be just someone completely random, like an Ishii who he's fought before, or Bobby Lashley maybe could be a name that Bellator would be willing to give up. But I don't think it's going to be one of those really big names that people are talking about, like Kimbo or something like that.
What do you make of the relationship with Bellator and Dynamite, and especially, or Bellator and what's happening in Japan? I mean, you saw what happened with the ratings over the weekend. Obviously disappointing. I mean, I was expecting higher ratings as well. It didn't happen. But what do you make of that situation and their ties in Japan?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were expecting higher ratings. I think Scott Coker even said during fight week he expects 2.5 to 3 million viewers, and they didn't even get there. The card did less viewers than the last event that they had, headlined by Czech Congo. So it's just that definitely fell a bit flat from what people were hoping for. But in terms of the overall event, I thought it was a pretty cool idea in theory. I like the fact that Bellator is trying to do its own thing, trying to, take that idea from Japan, the old Dynamite shows that K1 had, and just do something different. The UFC is it's just their machine. They do their thing. They do it well. And we need an alternative. We need something fun, something exciting. And I don't mind at all them going outside the box, trying an event like this. But it just seems like maybe it didn't work out as perfectly as everyone had hoped for. The glory fights didn't really live up to expectations. There was only one true glory fight on that card, which was the title fight. The rest were basically Bellator fighters fighting kickboxing matches. So I don't really know. I think they're going to have to go back to the drawing table a bit and just kind of work on this idea. Scott Coker said they want Dynamite to be an annual show. I don't think the ratings and what kind of happened over the weekend is going to cause them to pull the plug on this idea. I still think it's something, different that fans would enjoy. I obviously wasn't at the venue, so I couldn't take in the whole ring cage atmosphere in person, but on TV, I thought it came across awesome. The production was basically flawless, going from, Mauro Ranallo and Steven Quadros calling the kickboxing fights to, the Bellator team calling their fights. So I thought they did, the execution of it was pretty good, but there's always room to improve, and I think they're just going to have to, figure out a way to make this work. But I definitely don't think it's worth, giving up on the idea. It's definitely something fresh that they should continue to push out there.
Now, speaking of feuds, this Uriah Faber, Dwayne Bang Ludwig thing, every time we think it goes away, it actually escalates, and it's gotten pretty hot right now. I'm not into MMA gossip, Mike. You know that. You've known me very well, but It's in the media. There's allegations and accusations flying left, right, and center. I'm a firm believer that there's three sides to every story. There's his side, and then somewhere in the middle is the truth. What do you make of all this?
It's a shame that it's come to this, of course. Especially, it seemed like when Dwayne Ludwig went to Team Alpha Male that, he really clicked with some of those guys and really, helped them out a lot with their striking. It sucks that it's come to this. Uriah Faber, he said in that interview he did where he explained, the entire situation, he said that he didn't want to come to this. He's taken the high road ever since, the split first happened, but it kept going. Dwayne Ludwig kept pushing his buttons, I guess, and he finally decided to come out and, say his piece to the world. And hopefully, they both said after that interview came out that they want to, or they're willing to, work together and try to put this behind them. Uriah Faber says he's the kind of guy that's willing to forgive and forget, and it seems like Dwayne's the same way. So I don't know, hopefully maybe this is, the last straw. They got everything out of their system and maybe they can move on, and whether it's, working together or just going completely separate directions, it's an unfortunate situation, especially for someone like TJ Dillashaw who, trains with Dwayne. He's still one of his main coaches and he's kind of really stuck in the middle of all this, and he's the one I think that's going to be affected most. But it's, of course, in MMA, people do like their gossip. Some people do, some people don't, and this is one of those stories that seems like there's so many layers to it. Like you said, accusations left and right, and the truth probably is somewhere in the middle, but it seems like at this point, pretty much everything's out there. So I don't see it going too much further. Hopefully they can mend fences because, these are two fairly important names in the sport, and it just sucks to see them, bickering back and forth through the media.
All right, final topic before we let you go. Main event on Saturday at the Saitama Super Arena in Japan. Roy Big Country Nelson taking on Josh Barnett. Who wins?
I think I have to go with Josh Barnett. I favor him pretty heavily in this fight. Roy Nelson, he's 1-4 in his past 5. He's one of the older guys in the division. I think his 40th birthday is coming up pretty soon, and it seems like people have kind of figured out his style at this point. Goes in there, he's trying to just knock your head off with that overhand right, and he's able to do it to a lot of guys in the division, but when he's fighting these, upper tier guys that are smart fighters and can figure out his game plan, it seems like he's pretty helpless in there. So Josh Barnett hasn't fought in almost 2 years now. His last fight was that brutal knockout at the elbows of Travis Brown. So he's going to come back. He's fighting in Japan for the first time in I think about 5 years. Josh Barnett has so much history here. I don't think he's going to do anything other than go in there and try to give the fans the show they deserve and try to come out there with a big win. So I'm going with Barnett here, and then him getting back in the win column. If he continues to fight and fight frequently, he's a guy that is up there in the heavyweight division and can give a lot of guys problems.
Mike, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy Japan. I absolutely loved it when I was there. Above all, do not get lost because you will not find your way back to the hotel.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Take care.